Okay, folks, buckle up, because tonight we're diving headfirst into the biggest geopolitical cage match on the planet, the United States versus China. This isn't just a simple rivalry, it's a complex, multi-layered contest that spans decades and affects billions of lives. Think Rocky versus Drago, but with way more trade disputes and significantly fewer montages set to Survivor songs. Instead of boxing gloves, we're talking tariffs, sanctions, and economic strategies that could make your head spin. Now, these two titans haven't always been at each other's throats. They've had their moments of cooperation, even friendship, sprinkled throughout history. From trade agreements to joint ventures in space exploration, there have been times when the US and China have worked hand in hand. But let's be honest, the tension has been brewing for decades. Like a pot of tea someone forgot to take off the stove. The ideological differences and competing interests have always been there, simmering just below the surface. And lately that pot has been whistling pretty damn loudly. From trade wars to tech bans, the friction has reached a boiling point, capturing headlines and sparking debates worldwide. This isn't just about who gets bragging rights or the best seat at the United Nations. It's about global influence, power dynamics, and the future of international relations. This rivalry is shaping the entire world order, affecting everything from the phones in our pockets to the future of, well, everything. Global trade routes, international business deals, and even technological advancements are all being influenced by this ongoing contest. So, yeah, it's kind of a big deal. The stakes are incredibly high, and the outcome of this rivalry will have far-reaching consequences. Over the next few minutes, we're going to break down the key battlegrounds in this global showdown, the economic slugfest, the military muscle flexing, and the strategic maneuvers that both nations are employing to gain the upper hand. The tech race that's moving faster than a self-driving Tesla, with both countries pouring billions into research and development to outpace each other in innovation. And the whole damn ideological clash that's got everyone feeling like they have to pick a side. Democracy versus communism, freedom versus control. These are the big questions at the heart of this rivalry. To understand this rivalry, we gotta rewind a bit. Let's take a journey back in time, to the days when the world was a very different place. Think back to the 20th century, a time before TikTok dances and internet cat videos. It was an era of rotary phones, black and white television, and families gathering around the radio for their evening entertainment. The United States was riding high, fresh off a World War II victory, and embracing capitalism with the enthusiasm of a Wall Street banker on bonus day. The economy was booming, and the American dream seemed within reach for many. Meanwhile, China was going through some stuff. They'd had a communist revolution, and let's just say their economy wasn't exactly setting the world on fire. The country was struggling to find its footing amidst political upheaval and economic challenges. They were like the friend who shows up to the potluck with a bag of chips while you brought a whole roasted pig. The contrast between the two nations was stark, with America enjoying post-war prosperity while China faced significant hardships. Despite their differences, the United States and China found themselves on the same side during World War II, fighting against Japan. It was a time when necessity brought them together, even if only temporarily. It was a brief moment of camaraderie, kind of like when you and your nemesis have to team up for a work project. You put aside your differences, work towards a common goal, and maybe even share a few laughs along the way. You tolerate each other, get the job done, and then go back to subtly undermining each other's efforts. Once the war ended, the alliance quickly dissolved, and old tensions resurfaced. After the war, things went south. The world was entering a new era, marked by the Cold War and the ideological battle between capitalism and communism. The communists took over China in 1949, and the United States was like, nope, not a fan of this whole communism thing. The establishment of the People's Republic of China marked a significant shift in global politics. They refused to recognize the new government and basically treated China like that one weird cousin you avoid at family gatherings. Diplomatic relations were strained, and the two nations began to view each other with increasing suspicion and hostility. Fast forward to 1972. Richard Nixon, a president not exactly known for his chill vibes, decided to do something unexpected. He went to China. It was a huge deal. Like if your grumpy old neighbor suddenly invited you over for a barbecue. Nixon saw an opportunity. China and the Soviet Union, both communist heavy hitters, weren't exactly best buds at the time. Nixon figured, hey, maybe I can exploit this whole communist rivalry thing to America's advantage. It was a classic the enemy of my enemy is my friend situation. This visit opened the door for trade and diplomatic relations between the United States and China. American businesses were eager to tap into China's massive population and cheap labor, while China saw the United States as a source of technology and investment. It was the beginning of a beautiful, albeit complicated, relationship.
Over the next few decades, China's economy went from 0 to 60, like a panda on a sugar rush. They embraced capitalism with the fervor of a convert, building factories, skyscrapers, and an export machine that could churn out everything from iPhones to those little plastic toys you win at carnivals. The United States, meanwhile, was dealing with its own economic woes. The 2008 financial crisis hit them hard, making China's economic rise seem even more meteoric in comparison. It was like watching your friend who used to borrow money from you suddenly roll up in a brand new sports car. You're happy for them, but also a little bit, wait, how did that happen? This rapid economic transformation made China a major player on the world stage. They started throwing their weight around, investing in infrastructure projects around the globe, and challenging the United States for economic dominance. The sleeping dragon had woken up, and it was hungry. This brings us to the present day, where the economic rivalry between the US and China is playing out like a high-stakes game of poker. Each nation is carefully strategizing, making calculated moves, and waiting for the other to show their hand. Both sides are holding valuable cards. The US with its technological prowess and powerful companies, leading the world in innovation and cutting-edge advancements. China with its manufacturing might and massive market, producing goods at an unprecedented scale and speed. Trade has become a major point of contention, with both sides imposing tariffs and restrictions. The US accuses China of unfair trade practices like stealing intellectual property and manipulating its currency, which they claim gives China an unfair advantage. China, in turn, accuses the US of protectionism, arguing that the US is trying to stifle its growth and maintain its own dominance, and trying to hold back its rise, claiming that the US policies are designed to keep China from becoming a global leader. It's like a couple arguing over who does more housework, but on a much larger scale, with billions of dollars and global trade agreements at stake, affecting economies and industries worldwide.
Then there's the tech race, a critical front in this modern rivalry. Both countries are pouring billions into developing cutting-edge technologies like artificial intelligence, 5G networks, and quantum computing, knowing that these advancements will shape the future. They know that whoever wins this race will have a major advantage in the 21st century economy, potentially dominating global markets and setting new standards. It's like the space race, a competition that once defined a generation, but instead of trying to get to the moon, they're now focused on mastering the digital and technological realms. They're trying to control the future of everything, from communication and transportation to healthcare and beyond.
The military dynamics between China and the US are another crucial aspect of their rivalry. Both nations have been rapidly modernizing their armed forces and developing new military technologies. The US maintains a significant presence in the Asia-Pacific region, while China is expanding its influence through initiatives like the Belt and Road. Tensions often flare up in hotspots like the South China Sea, where both countries flex their military muscles. It's a delicate balance, almost like a game of chess, with each move and countermove carefully calculated to avoid open conflict yet assert dominance.
Artificial intelligence and 5G networks are at the heart of the technological rivalry between the US and China. Both nations understand that leadership in these fields will define their global influence in the years to come. The US has been a pioneer in AI research, with Silicon Valley leading the charge. However, China is catching up fast, investing heavily in AI startups and academic research. It's almost like a race to build the smartest brain. When it comes to 5G, China has taken a significant lead with companies like Huawei at the forefront. The US is concerned about the security implications of using Chinese technology in its networks. It's a battle for control over the next generation of internet infrastructure, and the stakes couldn't be higher.
When it comes to diplomacy, both China and the USA have their own unique strategies. China tends to focus on building economic relationships through initiatives like the Belt and Road, while the USA often leverages its historical alliances and military presence. This creates a complex chessboard where every move is calculated and can have global repercussions.
The ideological differences between China and the USA are stark. China's model emphasizes state control and collective prosperity, whereas the USA champions individual freedoms and market-driven growth. These contrasting ideologies not only shape domestic policies, but also influence their foreign relations and global standing.
As we look to the future, the rivalry between China and the USA will undoubtedly continue to evolve. Both nations will need to navigate a landscape filled with economic challenges, technological advancements, and shifting alliances. The key will be finding a balance that allows for competition without escalating into conflict. Despite the intense rivalry, a world divided is not the only possible outcome. Cooperation on global issues like climate change, pandemics, and economic stability can pave the way for a more collaborative future. Ultimately, the decisions made by China and the USA will shape not just their own destinies, but the fate of the entire world.